present in the Civic Hall. Can I also remind members of the public present that this is a formal meeting, and whilst we welcome your attendance and thank you for coming along, we ask that you do not approach members of the panel during the meeting and that proceedings are observed quietly and without interruption. If this is not adhered to, you may be asked to leave and the meeting will be suspended while this is facilitated. City Plans panel deals with applications from the city centre as well as the largest and most significant applications the council receive. The aim of the panel is to hear all the relevant information from applicants, registered speakers and council officers to help members of the panel make their decision. Could I now invite members and officers to introduce themselves and mute your microphone once you have introduced yourself? And we will start from my left, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Daljit Singh. I lead the Central Area Planning Team.
Good afternoon, Robin Coughlin, Planning Officer.
Hello, Gillian MacLeod. I'm Head of Development Services from Highways and Transportation. Good afternoon, everybody. Councillor Katie Dye from Killingbeck and Seacroft.
Afternoon, everybody. Councillor John Garvani, Horsforth.
Hello everyone, Councillor Asghar Khan, Councillor for Bermontoft and Richmond Hill Ward.
Good afternoon, Councillor Peter Carlill, Calvin Vardley Ward.
Good afternoon, Alice Smart, Councillor for Armley Ward, and I'm substituting today as well.
Good afternoon, Lewis Footett, part of the Plans Panel Admin Team.
Good afternoon, I'm Ellen Atkin from the District Valuer Service from the Valuation Office Agency.
Good afternoon, everybody. Councillor Dan Cohen from the Alwoodley Ward.
That's it. Press it wrong button. Good afternoon, Councillor David Blackburn, finally in Wortley Ward.
Good afternoon, Councillor Simon Seary from the Putty Ward.
Good afternoon, John Stonard, Team Leader for Design and Projects.
Good afternoon, Andy Booth, Clerk to the panel.
Good afternoon, Amy Davis, Legal Officer.
Good afternoon, David Feeney, Chief Planning Officer.
Good afternoon, Jonathan Carr, Head of Development Management.
Okay, thank you everybody, and can I just say on behalf of us all a big thank you to Amy, who has been our legal officer in City Plans for quite a long time, as she's moving to pastures new at the end of this month, so thank you for advising us, Amy, over the last however quite a long time. Thank you, and good luck in your new role. Okay, moving on then to the agenda, item number 1, please.
Thank you, Chair. Under agenda item number 1, there are no appeals against the refusal of inspection of documents. Under item number 2, there's no exempt information on today's agenda. Under item number 3, there are no late items of business today. Moving on to agenda item number 4, could I ask members if they've got any interest to declare?
Councillor Cohen.
Chair, yes. Under agenda item, looks for it, 8, just to, as it's something I'm fairly open about, I am an avid Leeds United fan, but will be in no way allowing my lifelong love of the team to in any way prejudice any determination we make. I have a fully open mind.
I'm guessing there'll be a few people around this table.
Anybody with sense and integrity.
Thank you.
And agenda item number 5, apologies. We've got apologies on behalf of Councillors Anderson, Brooks, Campbell and Maloney. And today we've got Councillors Jones and Smart who are attending as substitutes in place of Councillors Brooks and Maloney, and Councillor Seary who was in attendance as a substitute for Councillor Anderson. Thank you, Chair.
Microphone on again. Sorry, apologies. Agenda item number 6, minutes of the last meeting held on the 10th of April 2025. So moving on to those minutes. I will go through the minutes for accuracy first of all and then take matters arising. So, for accuracy then, page 1, page 2, and page 3. Okay, are members in agreement that they are a true and accurate record of the last meeting? Thank you, everybody. Any matters arising from those minutes? No. Okay, thank you, everybody. Right then, moving on to agenda item number 7, which is page 11 in your packs, and is a site at Saina Lane in Hunslet. And I will hand over for the presentation, please, first of all.
Thank you, Chair. So, Saina Lane. The site is a small triangular site of hectares. It's situated between Saina Lane and Carlisle Road to the north, Saina Lane to the southwest, and there's a vacant site to the east. So it's an area of transition. Looking northwest on this slide, you can see in the foreground there's the Brames pressing plant. That's a listed building. You can also see on to the east the vacant site that had been reserved for the original Supertram route, which is not now needed in this location. And you can also see across Saina Road there's the Points Cross development by the Guinness Trust. And immediately across Saina Road, just here, there's permission for a 20-storey residential block. So the existing building comprises a 2-storey element at the apex of Saina Lane and Carlisle Road. And there's a single-storey element that's facing Saina Lane, and there's a yard to the rear. I think you'll agree that the buildings are lacking in architectural merit and are unexceptional in visual terms. So the proposal is to demolish all the buildings on site and erect an 18-storey building of 164 flats. The design team has worked with the developer to achieve a satisfactory facade. The building would be top and tailed with a distinctive crown and plinth. The crown, The crown has these arched insets at the top there, and the plinth is defined with a different textured brick for the first 3 floors. And the main part of the elevation has aligned windows, giving a strong vertical emphasis to the facade. And the windows would be set into deep 240mm reveals against the brick framing. And there'll be a variety of panelling and Juliet balconies to provide visual interest. On this slide, you can see the textured brickwork that helps define the plinth. And this slide shows the south and east elevations. I'll just draw your attention to this bit of the building here, where there were going to be a line of windows, but they've been removed in case the site next door is developed in the future, so it wouldn't be at all stymied. So moving on to the issues raised, as viability of affordable housing, the submitted viability assessment has been appraised in detail by the District Valuer Service, and their conclusion is that the scheme is only viable without any affordable housing provision and with a reduced off-site commuted sum for green space, which would be for 31,000 instead of 206,000 as recommended. And the district valuer agrees that without these reductions, the scheme would be unviable. But it should be noted that the applicant has agreed to a late stage review clause that would be in the Section 106 agreement, such that if the scheme isn't built out quickly and market conditions improve, then the viability assessment can be rerun. So I'll just mention there have been one or two objections, and the points raised have all been addressed in my report. But I'll just draw attention to a couple of things on this slide. First of all, the proposed building would be 97 metres away from the nearest part of the Climate Innovation District, and that's quite a long way, particularly in the city centre context where we often permit buildings that may only be 15 or 20 metres away from each other. Secondly, this provides a bit of context. It shows the 20-storey building that's been permitted on the opposite side of Sena Road, which just shows that this proposal would be subservient to that. So here you can see the ground floor plan. So on the north side, jumping ahead. On the north side, you can see the soft landscaping along Carlisle Road. There's a large tree at the corner and two medium-sized trees there and there, and smaller trees along the frontage, and two seating areas proposed. In terms of biodiversity net gain, the planning application predated the go-live date for the national scheme, but nonetheless the scheme does demonstrate a 25% improvement in biodiversity. There isn't really very much biodiversity at all on the site at the moment, as it's mainly buildings and a tarmac yard. In terms of wind mitigation, this includes the framing to the surround to the main entrance there. There's also landscaping here so people can't walk past the corner, and there's also a 1.8 metre fence that runs along the outside of the south and east of the site. And for design reasons, we had suggested a dwarf brick wall with a fence above, at least around the street frontage. But the developer has said that there are structural reasons why this cannot be done. In terms of highways and servicing, it's largely traffic free. There's just 3 parking spaces down here. 2 of them are laid out as disabled spaces. They're all fitted with electric charging points. The cycle storage meets the transport SPD requirements. There's cycle parking there and also inside there. There'll be 156 long stay bike spaces, which is 95% of the flats, and 46 of those would be in the form of Sheffield stands, and also 26 parking spaces are provided for short stay parking on the outside of the building. Including these areas here, as well as at the main entrance. And the refuse store is sufficient for a twice weekly collection, and there's a lay-by down here. This shows the latest version of the off-site highway works. They've been agreed in principle to improve the safety of pedestrian crossing points and provide wayfinding signage. This slide shows a residential floor layout. It would be the same for 11 of the floors. There's a reasonable housing mix, 67 one-bed apartments, 80 two-bed apartments, and 17 three-bed apartments. That constitutes 10%, which is a reasonable amount if you compare with similar schemes in the city centre. All the flats meet the nationally described space standards. In terms of accessible dwellings, there'll be 59 of the M42 type dwellings. That's 36%, and there would be 4 M43 dwellings, 2.4%. That both those percentages exceed the requirements in the policy. So altogether, we feel that whilst the scheme doesn't provide affordable housing and doesn't provide the full green space financial contribution, it will regenerate a brownfield site and provide 164 new dwellings in a sustainable location. And also all the other policy requirements are met. So it's considered that the scheme should be supported. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I now invite Ashley Wheat to the table, who is speaking in objection to the application, please? Okay, once you're ready, you will have 4 minutes to present your case. Whenever you're ready, yes.
Thank you. I appreciate some of the points I'm going to make have already been mentioned in the presentation, but I thought I'd raise them anyway. So I'm a resident, along with Jonathan, here on Central Place, which is, I think, the nearest neighbouring existing residential development is part of the Situ Climate Innovation District. I've got 4 main points to raise, really. First being the parking. So the proposal outlays 3 parking spaces, including 2 accessible parking spaces. Living in the local area, I can tell you that parking is already a massive problem on street parking, and I do think it's unreasonable to assume that the occupiers of 164 dwellings aren't going to come with any cars. There's already a lot of pressure. Having a car myself, I can tell you it's a nightmare trying to park anywhere on the surrounding roads of Carlisle Road, Clarence Road or Saner Lane itself, as there's no reserved spaces for residents. And we compete with visitors to Leeds Dock, visitors to the city centre who use our roads for free parking. So it's just going to add to that problem with no provision being made. There is a concern about increased traffic to the area. So the area currently, as we've seen in the planning permission for our own houses and others around the area, it still looks like an industrial area. It still looks like industrial roads, and it is treated as such by drivers. We have problems with speeding drivers. We have problems with dangerous driving, and especially when there's events on at Leeds Dock and surrounding amenities, we have a huge problem with traffic in the area. The proposed changes to traffic calming haven't yet been put in place. So we are worried about the increased traffic of 164 occupiers and potential visitors to the We have got some concerns about the height and mass of the building. I know that was addressed, and there was a mention of the building across the road on Sena Road. We are worried on Central Place. We sit southeast of the proposed building. We are a little bit worried about evening sun being blocked out. So if you were to look to the north of our houses, the evening sun sets almost exactly where the building currently is, especially in the winter, and we are worried about losing the evening sun due to the height of the building, and would like that to be reviewed. Furthermore, the Climate Innovation District development in the surrounding area, especially to the land to the rear of, to the south of Carlisle Road, where I believe Situ are planning to build more buildings, are low-level housing. So we're worried it's kind of out of keeping and out of character with the other developments in the area and the whole sort of ethos of the Climate Innovation District. And I believe that's all of the points I had to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Do members have any questions for the speaker? No? Okay. Well, thank you for coming today. If you'd like to take your seat back in the public gallery and observe from there, please. Thank you. And can I now ask the applicant's representatives to come to the table, please? So once you're ready, again, you have 4 minutes for your presentation. So whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to begin by commending the thorough and comprehensive planning report to the members. The development of the scheme following its outline approval in November of 2022 is the result of lengthy discussions and dialogue with Leeds City Council and their officers. I'll briefly address each of the key concerns that we believe have been raised, focusing on traffic, supporting infrastructure, overlooking light and privacy, visual appearance and landscaping. Traffic. As described in the report to members, the development site is highly accessible, and as such, the scheme is predominantly car-free with just 3 spaces provided. There is also a plan in place to promote sustainable travel choices, and we consider it unlikely that the development will add pressure to the local road network. Supporting infrastructure. Council's team has advised that there is sufficient capacity within the existing education and GP facilities locally, and the scheme will be making the necessary sole contribution in order to allow future growth in the city centre. Overlooking light and privacy. The building design has been developed within the context of a city location. Primary elevations face away from the situ development, and residential properties within this area are around 160 metres away, with the proposed school and care facility 80 to 90 metres away. Given the surrounding context and urban location, we believe the proposals are appropriate and would have a negligible impact on these areas. Visual appearance. We've worked closely with the design and conservation officers following the outline planning consent to develop the design and appearance of the building. I'll run through some of the key features of the design to highlight the quality we're aiming to deliver. In terms of the overall building mass, we've broken it into 3 elements to reduce the impact and add some interest. These 3 elements are then stepped down towards the south so that the scale reduces from the 20-storey building proposed opposite, forming part of the Points Cross development. The team worked hard to develop an approach to elevational treatment that ensures that the building contributes to the wider cityscape and also the street level where people will be much closer. A refined material palette of red brick and aluminium panels, along with variation in detailing and texture, provide a contextual response. The building is also divided vertically, providing a plinth level, a middle and a crown. The plinth in particular develops a high level of interest and detail and is designed to relate to the neighbouring streetscape. The plinth is set at 3 storeys and lines through with the eaves of the UTC elevation to the west, and there is double height glazing to reflect the UTC's large vertical windows. We've also proposed castellated brickwork at this level, along with profile cladding panels to add texture and interest. The middle section of the building focuses on providing a vertical emphasis, assisted by grouping windows vertically into strips of 4 and 6 at the top of the building. And the crown is defined by vertically stacked bonded brickwork. Having worked closely with the Leeds Council team, we believe we have delivered a high quality and appropriate building that will make a positive contribution to the city and the neighbourhood. Landscape. The landscape proposals have been carefully considered, and the design works hard to deliver interest within a limited area. Alongside the wide pavement areas, the building also set back and provides an opportunity for improved public realm and delivers a significant biodiversity net gain to the existing site. The scheme aims to foster social spaces and facilitate ease of movement for residents and pedestrians. There are 2 bench seating areas surrounded by shrub planting. 8 trees are also proposed, with a large tulip tree on the corner of the site. And we believe this proposal contributes to the wider and more significant public realm available locally. Hopefully this provides a bit of insight and response to some of the concerns raised.
Okay, thank you for that. Do members have any questions they would like to ask? Councillor Jones.
The wrong one. The number of car parking spaces, are we realistically thinking that that will be adequate for what the number of cars that would end up there? Because I'm sure we'd end up with far more cars than what the car parking spaces. And would that not increase the actual inability of local residents to park who already live there? Do you not think that that would be something you might want to consider?
Thank you, Councillor. I think ultimately, given that this is a highly sustainable location, and obviously colleagues in highways will be able to kind of come back from the council's position on the highway and the parking numbers that are proposed, but ultimately it's a highly sustainable location. I think we have to really try and encourage people in terms of modal shift. In terms of walking distances, it's less than a 5-minute walk to Leeds Dock. Obviously, the area is changing. It's part of the South Bank regeneration area where the council are actively encouraging 1,500 new homes to come forward as well. So the city is kind of shifting in this way. We've seen that with Air Park. So there is a modal shift. Obviously, we are including provision for traffic regulation orders within the information that's been provided as well. So, you know, we do believe that there is a kind of a sustainable approach here, a robust travel plan, and that will encourage the visitors and the residents to have a different approach to car parking ownership.
No? Okay, well, thank you for your presentation. If you'd like to return to the public gallery, please. Okay, do members have any questions to officers next? Okay, Councillor Dye, Councillor Cohen, okay, and Councillor Khan, okay.
Thank you. I'd appreciate some comments on, first of all, some of the things that we've heard about the potential for increased parking issues, traffic, and another thing that was mentioned was traffic calming. So what kind of things are planned around that area that might help that? And my second one is about the lack of affordable housing, which is very disappointing. Can you explain a little bit more about the late stage review in terms of at what point does that happen, and what further obligations might there be, and is there a likelihood that we would get affordable housing out of this scheme at some stage? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just pick the first one up on the highways issues. Could we just go back to the wider plan of the area? There was one that showed Clarence Road as well. I'm sure there was one a bit. Was there one a bit further out or not? No. Okay. Sorry. So in terms of the proposals around the wider area, I mean, this particular development has its own highway works, but they are really restricted to frontage footway widening. So we've got 3 metres wide footways round both sides of the scheme and crossing points. So that's the kind of scope of the works alongside the lay-by that's going in. The lay-by will be used for servicing, but it can also be used for pick-up and drop-off because it is a pretty much car-free development. So that's the kind of proposal just around the general development site. The wider area, in terms of Clarence Road itself, which is one of the main access points, so there's two access and egress points into this kind of area of South Bank. You can come down from Chadwick Street in and out from that direction, or you can come in and out from Clarence Road down onto the Hunslet distributor area. So Clarence Road at the moment, we've got proposals that are overdue, to be fair, to be implemented as part of the situ development. So that does require, it has a level of road narrowing, slight deviation of the road, so it doesn't become so long and straight as it is at the moment. It has some traffic humps on it and junction plateaus. So and very much the speed limit will be looking at the whole area to be down at 20 miles an hour. So they are the works that are put in. There are a few bits and pieces of works for the Points Cross site as well, but that's the main area. We are really conscious that in this transition period, where you've still got quite a lot of industrial that does have heavy goods vehicle movements, and then you've got quite a lot of residential, that we have to try and accommodate both. So it isn't, it isn't all as ideal an environment for pedestrians as perhaps we would like it to be, but I think we've got a decent balance, and at the moment, and as other sites go forward, I'm sure we'll get it much more for that feel really, and we'll be able to start. I mean, there are some. So I don't know if we can just go on to the works, Lewis, please. The works that this scheme is developing are slightly tightening the radii, both at the, just on, I'll just wait for the plan to come up. They can't tighten it at Seine Lane itself, just because of the angle of the road, but as you can see further up, so further up Chadwick Street, there's a build out going in, yeah, just there. And similarly at the Chadwick Street, it's the other side, yeah, it's to the right, yeah, that's it. So that's tightening up the radii. The other side of the junction will be tightened up as part of the Points Cross development. So some of it's coming together, but it is a bit piecemeal. Thank you.
Yeah. I was going to pick up on the second point.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. But before I do so, I just want to add, my understanding of the wider street works is that there's not going to be uncontrolled parking. The ability to park as it is at the moment, where there's lack of controls, and that's why we've got on-street parking issues there. It's going to be very much like the rest of the city centre, where you can only park in controlled areas, and elsewhere, if you park, you get fined, and that happens to work quite well in the rest of the city centre. So I think that's a big deterrent to people bringing the cars in and causing issues, as it were.
Sorry, just to add to that as well, there will be an informative on the planning permission that means that all new residents of the accommodation have to be told that they won't be given parking permits for the street, so they won't be adding to any existing car parking issues in the area.
Yeah. In terms of affordable housing, yes, current market conditions and the viability assessment that's been submitted and that's been independently reviewed by the district valuer has demonstrated that we're not going to be able to achieve our normal affordable housing ask. The late stage review is a mechanism within the legal agreement which will allow us to review that position at an appropriate stage. It's normally at no more than 75% occupancy of the flats. So it's at a stage of the development when actually we're not relying on estimates. Hopefully by that time we've got some firm figures about what the actual cost of development is, what the actual returns are, and we're in a position to then determine whether there's any surplus profit, which can then be put towards affordable housing. So, because market conditions can change quite quickly. So that's what we mean by a late stage review. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Yes, Councillor Dye.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Just to pick up on two details. One, you said it will allow us to review. So does that mean that will definitely happen? And then the second one is, do we have examples? I don't need any named examples, but does it happen, you know, in across the city where we make a decision that says that it's not viable, and then later on that's changed and we do get some affordable housing out of the development?
So to the first question, yes, that will happen. That will be part of the legal agreement. To the second question, we haven't had enough of these historically to be able to say that it's only recently that we've been introducing these. Historically, we haven't really had too many viability positions put to us. In terms of, I think post-COVID is where the market significantly changed, and with rising construction costs and so on, my experience, that's when we've had a lot of these viability positions. We have got these late-stage review clauses in some of the other cases where there's been a viability position, but we've not got to a stage where we've run through these. But it will very much be a case, to my mind, of just readdressing the viability position, using the same approach, same methodology, but with known costs. And then if there is surplus profit, it'll be put towards affordable housing. But if there isn't, then we're not going to get any more affordable housing.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dye. Councillor Cohen, I had you next.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of things. You spoke about the only two areas where this application was deficient was in relation to green space provision and in relation to affordable housing. I don't want to say only, because they're huge as far as I'm concerned. But it's accurate to say, isn't it, that also in terms of the bedroom mix, it doesn't meet our usual expectation in terms of 3-bed, where we have a minimum expectation of 20%, and here it's 10%. That's accurate, isn't it?
I mean, the policy in the core strategy is for each scheme to provide an appropriate mix of housing, and the table that gets referred to applies to the whole of Leeds. So it's a judgment for each case. So you can't necessarily say that this is not policy compliant on that point.
Thank you. I think it would have been helpful to draw it to our attention. The perk of sitting on plans panel for years is that I can tell you we never ever see enough 3-bedroom, and colleagues will know that. So we know as a city we don't meet that. So we just exacerbate it each time we miss it. Could you tell me, please, the nearest bus stop and bus services that serve this proposal?
Yeah, so the nearest bus stop is on Hunslet Road, which is just at the end of the street on Sena Road. So it's they're just up. They're at the end of Chadwick Street, but they're within a standard walking distance from this site.
Yeah, and a distance would be helpful, but also the frequency of service.
Okay, if you. Thank you, Councillor Carlill. You are our bus expert. Thank you. Just before I bring in Councillor Khan, I did have a question on the buses, so can I just ask that, Councillor Khan, before I bring you in? Because I had a question. Thank you for raising it. Because I understand that there's no bus service connecting this area to the station or sort of the east side of the city centre. And again, I'm wondering if, as part of that, and Councillor Carroll may be able to help with this, whether that is something that can be looked at as part of the transport. I don't know. I'm asking the question because we've got an issue with the bus service in the area, and there's going to be no parking spaces. So that's something we need to consider. So is that something we can consider or make inquiries on?
I worked at the end of that road. The nearest bus stop is less than 200 yards away from that site. The 12 and the 13 also run past that, which run up to Middleton and also back into the city centre. So, to be honest, it has a reasonable bus service.
Thank you, Councillor Jones and Councillor Carlill, for answering our bus questions. Very helpful.
Chair, can I just
yes, Dalji, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add that from my experience of Hunslet Road, it's well served by buses. I won't be able to tell you exactly what time, but there's many buses that go up and down Hunslet Road. I also know the park and ride goes up and down there. In terms of this particular application, the applicants have submitted transport assessment. They've demonstrated that in terms of the number of trips being generated and the nature of the trips being generated by this development, it wouldn't be reasonable for us to ask them to provide a enhanced bus service. So that's just for members to take into account in their considerations. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so that answers the bus questions and what services are available. Councillor Khan, I had you next on the list. Thank you for waiting.
No problem, Chair. Thank you. Part of my question's been answered, but however, I just want to ask Robin, how did you come with 3 figure for parking space for this development and not more? That's one question. And the other questions are, which is the nearest primary school and where is the GP surgeries for this development? And where will the drop-off and pick-up will be located for this development? And will this building be adaptable for residents with disability access to enter the building?
Okay. I was just trying to remember what the first question was now. The 3 parking spaces. I mean, I look at this in terms of our policy, and the policy is very clear that in these sort of locations, we're looking for low provision of car parking because we want to make the city centre more sustainable. And it's only really where there's cases of highway safety problems and stuff where we would say no to that. So, in terms of policy, 3 parking spaces meets our policy.
So, really, the 3 spaces coming from the developer. What the policy says is we can accept little or no car parking in the city centre, providing it can be demonstrated that the proposal isn't going to create highway safety issues. So that's the policy. So if a developer comes to us and is able to demonstrate that even though they've got limited or no car parking, they're not creating highway safety issues, then the policy allows that.
Just in terms of the, I think it's school places, and the nearest school is, I think it was 15 minutes away. It's referred to in my report. It's just across the other side of Hunslet Road, and the school sufficiency team, they've identified
within 2 miles of the site, providing 400 reception places annually, and a scheme like this is only expected to generate, I think it was 4 primary school places. So that could easily be accommodated on this site. And similarly, the health partnership team had identified 3 local GP surgeries, and they're all accepting new patients. In terms of disability, I think the scheme has been looked at by our access officer, who didn't have any issues in terms of the layout of the building itself. I think it meets the requirements in terms of widths of corridors and doorway widths and things like that.
Okay, Councillor Cowan, I know you asked quite a lot of questions. I'm just wondering if we've covered them all.
Just one last one is the drop-off and pick-up as well. And just before Robin comes back to that question, what's the distance for those GP surgeries and where are they, please?
So, Councillor Khan, the drop-off and pick-up. So there is a lay-by that they're proposing on the on Saint Lane, which would be usable for drop-off and pick-up. Yeah. So this is the new lay-by, and there's a. I know the main entrance is round here, but I believe there is the ability to enter in this area as well. The other side of this is that at the moment, the area in front of here is double yellow lines, but if you can drop off and pick up on double yellow lines if required, so that there is the potential in terms of just kind of like taxi pick up and drop off that it could occur here as well. But there is a particular lay-by specifically for will be available for people. Just whilst Robin's looking for the GPs.
Yeah, sorry, Gillian. Are we encouraging people to park on double yellow lines to drop off pick-up, please? When we've got TRO to restrict people to park up on the double yellow line.
No, clearly not to park, but in terms of pick-up, it is allowed on double yellow lines.
In certain circumstances, you can have no stopping at all on double yellows.
Yeah, that wasn't in this area at the moment. So it is. So when we were out on site this morning, there was a vehicle parked there with the blue badge, for example, because that is acceptable on that grade of double yellow line. So that's the position that we've got there at the moment. Yeah.
So the GP surgeries, the closest one is the York Street Health Practice, which is 0.6 miles from the site. And you have Shakespeare Medical Practice, a mile, and the Light, which is also a mile.
Councillor Carr, I can see they're in your ward, so do you want, I'm guessing you want to come back. I have got you, Councillor Blackburn.
Chair, just briefly on the Shakespeare surgery. I know they're accepting new patients, but it's not fit for purpose, actually, that surgery, so how can we encourage, and signpost residents from this development to go onto that surgery?
I mean, we're under a pressure to provide additional housing to meet the housing crisis in this country, and I think we're doing our bit, and we're making sure that surgeries are available that can take patients. I don't think we can also make sure that the quality of the surgeries it meets a particular quality threshold. I think that's just stretching planning too far.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blackburn, I had you next.
Thank you. Just picking up on the thing with the GPs. This area of Leeds has been subject to loads and loads of planning applications. Are we certain that when this is built, the likelihood is there will be a number of other places are built? Are we certain that there will be places at those GPs and at those schools when those other buildings are built? and this is completed.
Separately from individual applications, we're working very closely with Health Partnership. They're aware of what we're planning for this area. It's not new news. We've had the South Bank regeneration plan in place for years, and the core strategy has been adopted since 2014. So our ambitions to double the size of the city centre is there for everyone, and our health providers are aware of that ambition, and they're aware of their task of meeting those infrastructure needs. But it really is something because of the way the NHS is set up and the health provision is set up in this country, it is really for those health partnerships and health providers to plan for that strategically.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Carlill, I can see you're indicating.
Thank you. I was just going to bring up the affordable housing provision, and it's a bit of a wider point, really, on this. As far as I can tell from the District Valuers report, and maybe this is a question you can answer for me, there doesn't look like anything exceptional in the circumstances here. It's not that they found contaminated land that needs clearing out. It is just that building this building on this site does not come to a position that supports all the policy requirements, as far as I can tell. That leads me to the view that many of the buildings on the sites around here, as we see, are not going to support then the policy requirements in full. And I think it would be useful then to have a discussion on this site and then on others in how we pick and choose then what they do support. So that's one. I guess first question is, am I right that there's nothing exceptional here? This is just that a building on this site of this type is not able to meet policy at the moment. The second point would be then, if we had the affordable housing provision as a commuted sum, how much would that be for this site? So how much are we missing out on in terms of that? And then how is it decided which of the different sets of Section 106 agreements do we decide that this building should meet? So how do we decide that we should have the green space and the travel plan as a first, and necessarily the affordable housing last? And if that happens on all of the houses in this area, then we'll end up with no affordable housing, but plenty to spend on the green space. And I just wondered whether there's a coordinated approach to that.
I mean, I'd say that the building isn't unique, but you know, it does have some characteristics that mean that viability is more difficult and more challenging. I mean, I specifically that the land area is very small. The construction costs are very high. With larger land area, there is more scope to perhaps negotiate in terms of, you know, a cheaper land price that can enable the planning benefits to be provided. But as I say, the land area is very, very small on this site. So, but that's not unique, and there may be other schemes that are similar. And the other factor, I think, is that maybe the rents and the values in this location are not quite so good. And we have got Ellen Atkins at the table from the district valuer who might be able to explain a bit more about that. But sorry.
So would you like to come in, Helen? Thank you.
Yeah, so viability is obviously assessed on a site-by-site basis, so you can't really just say it's not that every scheme of this size and density wouldn't be viable. Obviously, we look at every site on their own merits. The build costs are assessed by a cost assessor to deem if they are reasonable. In this case, the scheme isn't viable, and that is becoming more common. Build costs are inflated at the moment. Building high-rise is more challenging than it ever has been. There's new insurances, new costs through the back of Grenfell and the Building Safety Act, which means that there's more pressure and more costs for developers. which is really why we're introducing the late stage review mechanism, because it then allows, at the point where, say, it's 75% occupied, we can then reassess it. We've got the actual costs. There might be savings that have been made, but we've also got the actual rents, because obviously the rental market is at the moment, it's growing. It might change, but it just allows us to have a better and a fairer picture of what actually has happened on that development, so the right amount of affordable housing for that scheme is given back to the council. Just picking up on an earlier point, whereas it is relatively new for this city, lots of other cities are implementing late stage reviews, and very successfully. The GLA in London have been doing this for years, and they get an awful lot of affordable housing back at that late stage review, because what you often find is when the costs are submitted for an application, they are costs that have to cover everything, whereas they're probably like potentially at the more nervous end, you know, assessed based on a huge database of other costs, but they're not actual costs. So because of that, they're very high level, and there's a lot of assumptions that are made within the costs which haven't actually been tested whether they're needed. So I think the late stage review on all the concerns on affordability will allow that kind of second assessment to reassure the council that they're getting the right amount of affordable housing back.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll pick up on the other points that Councillor Carlyle raised, but just one question, Ellen. Do we know what the value of the affordable housing would be if it was affordable?
So I am sorry, it was my colleague who actually was dealing with this development. So I'm just trying to see if it's in the report, but I think it was in the realms of 6 million. However, I don't have the accurate figure to hand, but I can provide it at a later date.
No, that's helpful. Thank you. So, in terms of I think your question was about once a viability position has been established, then how we determine, in terms of what money there is for Section 106, how do we determine where that's spent? And really, it's for the council to decide that. We could decide that the remaining monies that are there, and if you look on the recommendations page and just do a very quick summary addition of those, you're looking at less than about £100,000. You could decide that £100,000 is actually put towards affordable housing, but it's probably not going to deliver very much affordable housing. Whereas I would also argue some of that money is absolutely necessary for making a safe place in terms of improved footpaths, dealing with sight lines, dealing with the practicalities of providing a good quality development. And in this particular case, we've played rightly or wrongly, and it's for members to decide whether we're wrong in terms of, but our recommendation to you is that we've put some of that money towards the travel planning measures, because it's a low car scheme, and those travel planning measures are going to be important. They have to be properly funded if they're going to work. So that's where we're saying how it should be split, but members can take their own view on that if they wish. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Carlyle, I'm guessing you want to come back on that now, yes?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just come back. Yeah, I think in a way it's a moot point on this development a little bit because of the difference between those figures there and the fact that there's a small amount here. However, I think when we're looking at developments in this wider area, what we don't want to do is accidentally get ourselves in a place by looking one development at a time where we have no affordable housing whatsoever. This one is a particular development on one small piece of land. If we're looking at something much larger, then obviously there would be a case to look at, well, are we better having two affordable properties than we are to have some of the other calculations in there? And what I'd really like is just some reassurance that that's work that will be done and will be ongoing within wider planning perhaps for this area, to ensure that we don't end up with too much of one and not enough of the other, based on, obviously we make individual decisions here as and when they go, but we're hoping that work is being done in the background, that maybe we could see at development plans panel or similar to ensure that it is being there.
I think it's a complex answer, as it were, our position. So in terms of our policies and updating our strategic policies and development plan, we do undertake strategic viability assessment to ensure that the broad policy asks that we're asking for, affordable housing, other infrastructure improvements, are going to be affordable, are going to be, those policies are realistic in terms of the likely cost of redevelopment. And I think we are going to focus that by area, in terms of the central area, as opposed to the whole city-wide, where costs and returns can be very different because of the nature of Leeds. So I think that I know that work is taking place, but that's a slow burn. It takes time to come up with that policy position. In the meantime, all we can do is deal with the applications that come before us. Now, it's very rare that we get a number of combined sites come to us at the same time. We do get individual sites which are very large, such as the Vastin scheme, which is not too far away from here, but luckily they haven't put forward a viability position. And similarly with the Guinness Trust, that was just across the road, they didn't either. So it's not, it's to emphasise Ellen's point, just because one scheme has come forward and proven a viability case doesn't necessarily mean that the one across the road will also be in the same position. It can mean, it depends very much on the nature of the site, the nature of the scheme and proposals. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Yep, thank you, Councillor Carlow. Any further questions before I move to comments? Yes, Councillor Seary.
Yeah, thank you. Just one going back to parking. He's saying that obviously parking permits, the new residents won't be entitled to any, but is there any parking restrictions in there at the moment? Sorry, I didn't attend the site visit, but yeah, are we implementing parking permits?
So at the moment, there is funding through from Situ to put in pay and display bays all around the site. So there's no proposal for resident permit parking at the moment. That's not to say things can change. But so the controlled parking that will remain, and the works I mentioned on Clarence Road remove quite a lot of the on-street parking, but certainly on these other roads in the South Bank area, we're looking at introducing it all as pay and display, and there is money coming through to do that.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Cohen, you have another question.
Yeah, it's just something I want to put on there. We were given a figure of a potential commuted sum would have been in the region of £6 million for affordable housing, which sounds extraordinarily high. For 125. Could I just...
I'm just trying to calculate it. Sorry, I don't have the figure within the report, but it's just a case of adding up a number of columns, which I was just trying to do for you.
Fine. It would be helpful for some clarity on that. Certainly, it would certainly make me think twice before moving ahead if we were saying no to £6 million as a commuted sum towards affordable housing.
Okay. Whilst Helen is adding that up, if we've got no further questions, I'll move to comments, and then I'll bring Helen back in if you can indicate when you've done your calculations, Helen. Thank you. No, it's fine. It's fine. Just let us know. So are there any comments from members now? Yes, Councillor Cohen first. Yeah.
Oh, did I expect to go in first? Thank you. I think this is really, really problematic. The developer said something quite interesting, I thought, which was it's 5-minute walk to Leeds Dock. I have nothing against Leeds Dock, but I don't think that's such a tremendous destination in and of itself. As you know, if it was 5 minutes to the bus station or 5 minutes to the train station, I'd have taken more note. Yeah, but 5 minutes to Leeds Dock as a selling point for accessibility and sustainable transport doesn't swing it for me. I have to also say I take a little bit of exception, personally, from my view, to officers when we're being told that we're under pressure to meet the housing crisis, and this is doing our bit on a development that's giving us nothing towards affordable housing. That to me isn't doing our bit for where we have a real crisis around housing. So those two bits as a starting point cause me issues. Chair, we have rightly said as a panel that we will look very carefully where developments come with reduced proposals for affordable housing. It was helpful that Daljit pointed out that across the way didn't have a viability issue and that other developments don't have viability issues. Actually, Chair, the issue is if something is being developed in a certain way and it can't produce any affordable, well, then go back to the drawing board and find a development that does do what it needs to do to make at least some contribution. I think this is hugely problematic. Equally, while I take the point around viability, the lack of any meaningful contribution towards green space, I find also unacceptable. I think there is far too much more work that I would be expecting the developer to be doing before I would feel comfortable supporting this. Because while I take the point on viability, I think the fault is at the development rather than the policy. I also have reservations around the car parking. I take the point that it is in a sustainable location in terms of bus services and in terms of its city centre location. But for me, 3 is just too few. Now, if that was the only problem, I would have probably said, well, c'est la vie. But as a cherry on a problematic cake, I don't feel this is something that I can support or we should be supporting at this stage. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Helen, you've got your calculations. I'll just bring you back in. Thank you.
So on our assessment on the DVS policy compliance scheme, the affordable housing would be 5.74 million. So just shy of 6 million.
We round things up here.
I think it is important when you're looking at the viability is to understand that in an area that's been regenerated, that there is likely to be rental growth. However, we're not seeing it today. So when we're assessing a scheme, we're bound by the RICS guidance, and we assess it as of today's values. However, the high-rise buildings take a number of years to complete. And by the time then you're reassessing it at the late stage review, that picture in terms of the rental values could be very different. And also then combining that with the build costs might also be very different. So at the late stage review stage, you might find that this development can provide the affordable housing. Yet in today, in a regenerating area, at the moment, that isn't what the figures say, but I don't think that means that all is lost. I think there is still potential. It's just a case of bringing it back and reassessing further down the line. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you. Councillor Blackburn, I had you next on comment, and then Councillor Carlow.
Oh, thank you. I'm troubled as well about the affordable housing. I mean, it was mentioned we've got an housing crisis. Well, actually, we haven't got an housing crisis. We have got a crisis in certain sectors of the housing market, and this does nothing to address that. What it is, we need affordable housing, we need social housing. We don't necessarily need that kind of housing that's being supplied here. And I think what we've got to do is we've got to think about that before we do it, before all sites are taken up. So I've got great trouble in supporting this. I'd agree with Councillor Cohen as well. The amount of green space is negligible. It's clearly, if other developments in that area can manage to do something that's affordable, then clearly what they're doing is they're looking at wrong market.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Blackburn. Councillor Carlow, I had you next.
Thank you. I think, I'm considering this, and the difficulty is the questions I have around this development in the area go wider than the development itself. So I think that's the problem when I find myself making a decision on this development, that I would like to ensure that in this wider area, as regeneration continues, that we don't end up with no affordable properties whatsoever. I would like to ensure that we do make sure that this area has a large amount of development, large amount of people are able to live there, lots of people are able to afford to live there, and lots of people are able to live in a fantastic place that we've got funding for the green spaces and the roads and the various travel points as well. I think, therefore, in my view, that can't all be necessarily aligned to this developer. So I think I would be minded to support this, given what we've said about the late stage review, and I do have some confidence in that process, if we can have a bit more reassurance at something like Development Plans Panel of a report of how things in these areas where we have strong ambitions as a council come forward. So if we can see something that shows, as Daljit was saying there, bringing up some fantastic examples, that shows that that is working and we are getting a policy position on the majority of them, therefore that's working, and yeah, given some time as some of those are built, this may absolutely be able to bring back more affordable housing at that level. I'd be minded to support on that level on this one because, as I say, I feel it somewhat unfair for me to put all my concerns around the wider area to this one developer when I don't think we've necessarily treated all developers the same with other things that have come forward in this area so far.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Carlow. That's helpful. Any further comments before I ask Daljit to kind of sum up our discussions today? Right. Okay. Over to you, Daljit. Thank you.
Thank you. So clearly, some members have raised concerns about the lack of affordable housing and lack of green space provision that's coming forward. I must add that our policy does allow for viability to be taken into account, so be mindful of that. I'm also, I also know Councillor Carlisle's position in terms of being minded to support the proposal, subject to a more strategic report being taken to Development Plans Panel about what's happening strategically in terms of development. And I'm sure that's something that we can arrange and can be looked at. And I think the key aspect of that will be to identify the developments in this area and what we've achieved and what we're likely to achieve going forward in terms of the challenges. So that's the summary. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we've had indications of support and not. So we have the recommendation on page 11. Do we have a proposer and seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Carlow, you're proposing. Do I have a seconder for that proposal? No. Okay. So bearing in mind we don't have a seconder, is somebody wanting to come in with some alternative proposal? Thank you, Councillor Cohen. I was looking around the table. Okay, I will second that, and we will move to the vote then, if nobody is going to come in with a counter proposal. Okay, right. We will vote by show of hands. So those in favour of the recommendation on page 11, those in favour, can you show of hands, please? Okay, and those against? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 8. 2 in favour, 8 against. Any abstentions that are missed? No. Okay. So that recommendation is not carried. So we will need to relook at that. Oh, sorry, Councillor Carlow, you want to come back in?
Shall I propose then, Chair? I'm not sure we're at the point, and I wouldn't think we're at the point of refusing this quite yet. Should I propose a deferral for officers to look again at the viability position and possibly the design? We did hear that the build of this may add costs, and maybe the developer may want to look at that, see if there's areas where they could save money, and come back to us with a joint another position at the next meeting. I don't know whether anyone would second that proposal, but happy to put that forward.
I've got Councillor Dye indicating to second that proposal. Okay, I'll move to a vote on Councillor Carlisle's proposal now. So those by show of hands, those in favour. Sorry, Councillor Khan.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Can we also include the green space as well to see if we can revisit the green space on the development as well?
Have we got...
Chair,
sorry, Councillor Cohen.
Sorry, I just think it's really important that we have absolute clarity on what we're actually voting for. I think, if I'm correct, what we're giving is the developer an opportunity to hear what members have said today with a view to reviewing the affordables, the green space provision, and to see if they might want to alter structurally so that it becomes more viable for them to look at that. But they're what we are recommending, giving them some time to look at. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Cohen. That's what I was just going to ask Dalgit, but you came in and summed that up for us. I was just going to ask Dalgit to sum up that new proposal, the new recommendation. Thank you to Councillor Cohen for summing that up for us. So we are now voting on that recommendation put forward by Councillor Carlisle and seconded by Councillor Dye. Show of hands, please, those in favour. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's, and myself, 10. That's 10 in favour. I can't see any abstentions and nobody against because it was unanimous. So I'm not even going to ask that question. Thank you, Councillor Cohen. Right. Okay. Have we got? You want to?
I can sum.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So just for the record and to be clear, the application has been deferred for officers to consider with the applicant the concerns that have been raised about the lack of affordable housing and lack of green space, and to consider potential for structural changes to address those concerns.
Okay. Thank you, Dalgit. Everyone's happy with all of that. Okay. Right, I'm just going to give you a very quick 5 minutes before we move into the next application, the pre-application. So if you can be back in 5 minutes, please, everybody. Okay, thank you everybody, and we welcome back. We are now moving on to agenda item number 8 on the agenda, which is the pre-application for Leeds United Football Club at Elland Road. I think this is the one everyone's been waiting for. So first of all, I know Matthew, you want to clarify a couple of things first of all before we move to the presentation. So we'll do that first of all, and then we'll have the presentation from the applicants. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Before handing over for the presentation, there are a couple of points of clarification for the benefit of members and to help give some clarity on the specifics of the proposals being presented today. Now, this project and the pre-application process overall is moving at pace, and it continues to progress in the background, with discussions between Leeds United and council officers still ongoing at the time of the report publication and are also still continuing currently. Well, events have now superseded a couple of matters that have been reported in the panel papers. So to bring members up to speed and to update the public record, Leeds United are now settled upon a capacity increase to 53,000. A higher capacity amount of 56,500 has been quoted in officer reporting and in the media, reflective of the figure which was under consideration at the time of the report publication. A capacity figure of 53,000 has now been settled on in the interim, and it's on this basis that the presentation to you today is being made. Then just one further point of clarification relates to paragraph 10.4 in the panel papers, and it's on the issue of sustainability. Again, discussions on this matter remain ongoing. And to clarify, the stadium proposals will not seek to achieve BREEAM Excellent in their entirety, as this form and nature of project does not neatly and distinctively fit into BREEAM criteria in the same way as a normal and more familiar type of building proposal that normally comes to City Plans panel would. However, on this point, it's important to be clear that the club are working closely with officers to work through and target appropriate BREEAM credits where these can be achieved. And the finalised approach obviously will be reported to members as part of any full planning application in due course. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you for attending today from Leeds United, and I will hand over to you now for your presentation. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. Just to introduce, I'm Maury Eisenberg, and I'm the Chief Business Officer at Leeds United Football Club. Just coming with a couple of quick introductory messages for you all. First, a lot of gratitude for giving us the time and the opportunity to work with you to deliver this project. The second is that we now have an ownership group of which I'm part of, which is really well capitalized and has been really trying to do everything by the book in the right way for a number of months. I'm extremely proud of the team that we have sitting with us, and half of the room over there all contracted to see that we actually deliver this project for the club, for the fans, for the city. I've had a great opportunity to meet some of you this morning. I think some of others are going to meet tomorrow, but that's it. But I'm around any time, okay? I really wanted y'all to feel our commitment to the project by being here personally, by being here this morning. You tell me where to be and we'll be there. But we're committed to deliver this project for Leeds United and for the city. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is David Curl. I'm a director of KSS. I've worked with Leeds United on various projects since the mid-1990s, and I'm honoured to be part of the team that's working on expanding and enhancing Elland Road. Go to the next one, please. So the stadium dates back to 1905, and pretty much all the stands have been expanded or redeveloped or enhanced to one degree or another over this period of time. And the last significant change was the construction of the new East Stand and the all-seater status back some 33 years ago. So clearly much has moved on in terms of new stadium in that time, and now's the time to look at this. So the club is considering detailed plans to enhance and expand the stadium, and looking to submit a hybrid planning application later in the summer. The West Stand will be in detail, North Stand in outline, and this will take the capacity from 37,645 to a licensed capacity of circa 53,000. Move on, please. So the one thing that really separates Elland Road, and you will have seen that over recent weeks, is the very special match day atmosphere. It's renowned throughout the world of football. It's comparable with any other English or European stadium. And any proposals moving forward, and as a sports architect, the one thing that we're always looking forward to is making sure all we do is enhance that amazing atmosphere and the match day experience. Despite this amazing atmosphere, the current overall match day experience for most fans doesn't compare well with other modern English stadiums. Concourses are tight and crowded, facilities are limited and dated, and some of the seating standards offer minimal comfort levels. And the views for many of the fans are impacted by structural columns to the north and west stands. This lack of modern facilities inevitably results in fans arriving a bit later and leaving earlier than other equivalent modern stadium. And this compounds pre and post match congestion and diminishes the overall match day experience. So we really want to do something about that. The owners have made it very clear that they want to provide the supporters with a modern, sustainable stadium that will enable them to compete with the other leading English clubs over the longer term, and that really is the basis of much that's happening within football at the moment. This is a stadium that's fit for the Premier League, and luckily we're in a position now that we can make that statement. It meets a significant demand for additional match day and seasonal tickets, of which there is a significant demand. And is capable of hosting a whole range of FIFA and UEFA international tournaments, as well as International Rugby League, concerts, boxing matches, festivals, all the things that Ellen Road have hosted over the years. Being able to do this assists them in meeting and maintaining the financial sustainability standards that are now established by the Premier League and UEFA, and you've read much about that, I'm sure, over the last year or so. That's really essential for the long-term viability and success of the club, and this project is vital in meeting these requirements. The proposed reconfiguration and expansion of the West and North stands, there's been a lot of discussion about that and a lot of fan discussion about what that is. But Ellen Road is a traditional stadium with 4 stands, and this is really the focus of our proposal, is to enhance the lower bowl and to make sure that we can have a modern interpretation of what a traditional football stadium is. And so this is very much an evolution of the current Ellen Road stadium, building upon the memories and the heritage that's embedded within the existing stadium, which I think is a very important point to take on board. The West and North stands are proposed to be expanded and reconfigured behind the existing lower tier profiles on a phased basis, and part of that is about capacity of what we can build, but it's also about making sure that we maintain the existing capacity throughout the development programme so that no fans are excluded during that period. Go on to the next one, please. This just shows the sections and the east stand on the right as I'm looking at it, and the proposed west and north stand. So you can see the scale of the proposals. It's a significant development. Next, please. So the new west stand extends to the west, to the rear of the existing stand, into the adjacent Fullerton car park and the outside broadcast area. You can see on this the red profile is the existing stand. So there's no getting away from the fact that this is a very significant proposal. It will take the seating capacity from the west stand from circa 8,000 at the moment to 17,000, 1,750. And it will provide a broad range of high quality facilities and amenities for both match days and non-match days, significantly enhancing the quality of what's there, both in terms of the internal spaces and the overall visitor experience. The west stand also, by tradition, includes all of the back of house facilities, so we'll be including new high quality players, officials, media facilities, production kitchens, all the things you need to service this, and particularly media facilities that need to meet the standards set by UEFA, the Premier League, and the various broadcast and media partners, and not the least of which the requirements is that we are fully compliant with Green Guide 6. Next one, please. So the north stand, intending to increase that capacity from 10,400 to about 15,300, expanding to the north behind the existing stand to provide a continuous home end of general admission seats throughout the entire tier. We will be putting additional wheelchair spectator platforms and facilities for those fans in the middle of that tier. This new, for want of a better phrase, cop stand will include all the spectator facilities, have wonderful views back to the city, and will also include a new internal fan zone at ground level accessible from Bobby Collins Way. If I can carry on, please. So the new stand will include a new middle tier and upper tier with a full range of high quality spectator amenities across the 5 floors. Fans will have phenomenal views of not only of the what's going on the pitch, but also to the west of the city from the building itself. The roof geometry of both the west and north stand is designed to acoustically focus the crowd noise back onto the pitch to give again that competitive advantage and to enhance the overall stadium match day experience. Next slide, please. The external form of a stadium is always guided by the function of what happens within the stadium bowl, all the various supporting facilities that we need, and not least the demands of access and egress arrangements, safe access and egress arrangements for very large numbers of spectators. So you can see here the CGIs of what's proposed. The external facades and walkways are all designed to work within the existing site levels, and for those that know the site know that it drops quite significantly across the width of the site, and also integrate into the emerging master plan. And the surrounding landscape also introduces new public realm and green spaces for community use, which is also supporting the match day operations. Just going on to how we can build this onto the next phase. I don't intend to go through this in detail, but we have considerable experience as a team of expanding existing stadiums whilst they remain in operation, and there are some significant challenges of doing that whilst we retain safe spectator access and egress. So I'm not intending to go through the slides here in great detail. Happy to take questions, but we've considered the overall phasing of the construction of the plans to do 2 things really. One, to ensure that we can have continuity of stadium operations with minimal disruptions, and more importantly, to maintain the continuity of safety licensing whilst efficiently constructing both stands. And we've done this, as I say, in a number of stadiums, and there is an art form involved in that. This image just quickly shows the site plan at the end of what will be the first phase of construction of the West Stand. So it includes new public realm to the west that will link into the future master plan, a new outside broadcast area to the north, visiting fans, coach parking, and a new service area to the northwest corner. The next, and I'm sorry I'm rushing this, but I know there's a time limit, so
we're watching the clock right now.
Yeah. So the image shows the completed development and has some new public realm in there. Just moving on quickly, please. At the heart of this project is a desire to significantly enhance the match day experience and the atmosphere for every fan. There's a diverse range of spaces, amenities, and experiences available to the clubs. They will be designed to be uniquely Leeds United, embracing the club's rich history and their brand. Experience that we have on many other projects shows that providing these facilities will encourage positive behavioural change, particularly established spectator behaviour, encouraging them to arrive much earlier and to stay longer, which in itself reduces congestion and improves the overall match day experience. Just my last slide, and I'll quickly go through this. I'm sorry. Passing on from this one quickly. So we've worked very collaboratively and constructively, thank you, with the city planning officers during the whole of the pre-app process, developing various design concepts and particularly looking at external material selection. Design of the stand reflects the key elements of the existing east stand. If you could go to the next slide, please. The iconic white exoskeleton, the dynamic expression of roof and facades that you can see, and it seamlessly blends those, I think, with the timeless tradition of a 4-stand stadium with this modern, sophisticated aesthetic. The external materials have been selected to reflect the club's identity. The colour palette and finishes are sympathetic to the existing building and perhaps the wider Leeds civic architecture. I would argue and state confidently that the stadium that we've designed is understated and elegant and with a touch of contemporary charm. It has a civic scale. It's a large building. It stands very confidently at a key gateway to the city. It's bold and respectful. It's designed to become a centrepiece of the expanded Ellen Road neighbourhood and a key piece of the wider regeneration strategy for the South Leeds corridor. It's a bold statement. It'll act as a catalyst, I'm sure, for future regeneration. It's future facing. It's passionate and it's bold and it's unmistakably Leeds. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I should have said congratulations on all the wins recently. Congratulations to you all. Okay, members, I'm moving on to questions to the applicant. So if you have questions, can you indicate by raising your hands, please? Right, I've got Councillor Smart, then Councillor Cohen, Councillor Blackburn, Councillor Khan. Right.
Thanks for your presentation. Just looking at the visuals of the stadium, I'm conscious that at the moment there's quite a lot of ad space and sponsors taking up room outside the stadium, but they weren't on those images. Will there be sort of spaces for adverts, or will it kind of be that clean sort of space that we saw in the photographs?
I was going to say, I'll pass over to the others, but the presentation, unfortunately, we missed quite a bit of the presentation, and there was also a fly-through as well. So I don't know whether it's worth just going to the fly-through, and hopefully I can pick up on some of the planning issues that were in the latter planning slides, because David unfortunately took all my time.
Yeah, if you want to do that, because I think it may answer some of the questions that members have. Yeah.
That latter speed was supposed to be the speed of the whole thing. But should we pass over to you, Maury, about the advertising and the notification and on to the design?
Sorry, could you just put your microphone on just so it picks you up? Thank you.
This is a pretty new environment for me, so hang in there with me. Thanks, everybody. So I think the renderings sort of reflect the shell of the building. I think that we are trying to think of ways that are pretty modular to be able to put partner branding still on the outside of the building at right times and then take it off at the right times. So I think we want something that's extensible, but I don't think the intention is to always keep it completely clean, because those sponsors are a proud part of the club too, and they're part of what helps us fund stadium development and pay for the footballers and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cohen, I have you next.
Thank you, Chair. The perk now, of course, with questions is there's no time limit on answers, which always helps. Could you just speak to us a little bit about some of the engagement that the club's going to be doing in terms of local community? With something like this, it's always going to be a concern for those living nearby. Perhaps you could speak to us a little bit about what engagement work you're going to do with the local community, and perhaps just a little bit more about how some of this how what's proposed will help in terms of the future direction of the club, the future viability of the club, and perhaps finally, just in terms of the match day experience, what this will do in terms of match day experience. Thanks.
So before I got up here, they said I just had to talk for about 5 seconds at the beginning, and that was it. So I'm definitely going to have a chat with my team about that one later. But I think I did want to start with Lucinda, because one of the things that we as an ownership group I think are pretty good about is we know what we know, and we know what we're good at, and we know what we don't know. So to do this the right way, we're really proud of the group of folks we brought together, and I think some of you know Lucinda. I was pretty impressed when I first met Lucinda. So can you take the first one, at least about what our strategy is to really engage with the community in the right way to see this project to completion?
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Cohen, for the question. So I'm overseeing the consultation process, and we've got quite an extensive process which we have developed with discussions with ward members as well as the council and other stakeholders to ensure that we're reaching as many people as possible. So that process has already started with the launch of the CGIs and the fly-through outside Ellen Road and the last match of the season, where I stood in for 4 hours speaking with fans, which was absolutely brilliant fun. And we've also started our community engagement with the Beeston Forum on Thursday. Throughout next week, I'm doing my community roadshow, where I'm visiting a number of different venues within the locality to Elland Road, including, I'm saying it off the top of my head, including the Holbeck Working Men's Club, Holbeck Together, Beeston Hill Community Centre, Farnley and Wortley Forum, the Dragon Pub, and the Disability Advisory Group of the club, and also, we'd be doing a breakfast morning for South Leeds businesses and a number of other local community groups. And I've kind of been in contact with many of those already. Cottingley Community Centre as well is now on the list. So that list has grown since we first kind of brought it together. And then on the 22nd and 23rd of May, we will have the public exhibition at the Centenary Pavilion at Elland Road. So the first hour of that on the 22nd at 11 till 12, we've devised a special session which will be a quiet session, and also we'll have BSL interpreter available, as well as tactile maps and a 3D model with inclusion and accessibility specialists available. And we've been in contact with the equality team at the council to ensure that that can be distributed through the Disability Hub, as well as other networks within the disability community, to ensure that we are inclusive as possible. From 12 till 8, then, that will be open to the public, and it will also be open to the public 2 o'clock till 8 o'clock on the 23rd of May. I've missed a couple of consultation sessions out, which was I did go and spend some time at Ingram Road Primary School speaking to Year 6, asking them what they thought was important for their stadium, and 32 out of the 38 pupils who were there voted disability access as their most important factor, which was, as a disabled person, was a wonderful thing and showed great hope for the future. And we're always open to suggestions. So, like I said, it's a programme that's grown since we've started it.
If I could just add that what we've been doing is part of the pre-app process, working with officers primarily up until April time, when the executive board then considered the issue of treating with Leeds United as part of the land ownership that Leeds City Council have. And as a consequence, until that was carried out and the executive board made that decision, we weren't able to obviously go public because we didn't know whether the Leeds City Council were going to be treating with us. As a consequence of the executive board decision now, as Lucinda said, we've begun this very extensive consultation process, and the intention is that over the course of the next month or so, through this consultation process, we'll start to gather thoughts and we'll start to work those through. If there are issues that are being picked up, we can work those through, for example, through the travel planning, etc. What we hope to do is report back to yourselves at Plans Panel on the 3rd of July, if that's something that you would like, when we can talk you through the consultation outputs and how that might have influenced the final planning package.
Sorry, one more point. Since the launch of the CGIs and the fly-through on the 28th of April, we've also had a dedicated email address that we've publicised through the press and through Leeds United social media, as well as the website. And we've so far, last I checked, had over 200 representations through that dedicated email address, which I think, as we've not quite started our kind of consultation roadshow and the public exhibition as a good amount of people coming back to us with their thoughts.
Brilliant, fantastic. And I'm sure if members have any other community organisations or groups that they would like you to visit, please, members, email Lucinda and let her know. And I will see you on the 22nd, definitely. So I had Councillor Blackburn next on my list. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Quinn, I don't know that we answered all your questions there. So do you want to? Is that okay? Do you want us to come back to you or?
Yeah. I didn't want to, there were some other questions that were just held in the air in terms of the impact of this in terms of the club for the future and in terms of the fan experience was my other question that was just holding in the air.
Should I go there next? Is that okay? Trying to stay out of trouble here. Thanks. Yeah. So the first one was about the broader area. Isn't that right? That you were asking about, and I think that we say it takes an unusual type of person to want to buy a football club. And one of the things with this group is really a desire to bring so much back to the city of Leeds. I mean, it really is. I mean, our largest thing, a lot of, I don't go investor by investor, but a lot of our investors have ties to Leeds that predate me being born, and a big part of this is about bringing revitalization to the city of Leeds and to the areas around Ellen Road. Clearly, there's some challenges that come with adding capacity. We know that we're working through those challenges, but the amount of job creation, the amount of sort of revitalization of the area, all the additional people that are going to come to town for these Premier League matches. Thank you for calling that out next year. So we think that this is definitely a real net positive for the city. We don't take for granted that there's some parts of it that we have to thread that needle real carefully and get it right. But again, that's why I'm so proud that we have these folks and a whole host of other folks really making sure that we don't lay you down on those scores. And then on the last one on fan experience, I think you saw a few of the pictures that David was showing. There's parts of the stadium that we're even a bit not so proud of anymore, and we can't do it all at once, but we need to continue to make a stadium that's going to make Leeds proud and is going to have us, stay up for a long, long time and to continue to have waiting lists like that no one else in the world has. So we know we need to do things to elevate the fan experience, and certainly the areas that we're working on. What's really great is that when you improve an area, you got to get back up to high standard. Right, so the South Stand, you won't see much improvement in this program because we're not touching the South Stand in this program. But you can rest assured that when it comes to fan experience in these areas, and not just the premium fan experience, definitely not just that, the GA fan experience, the fan experience of the folks that have loved Leeds the longest and are the biggest supporters of the club. Those folks have been first and foremost in our minds as we've been building out this plan.
Sorry, can I just jump in as well? Just and if we go back a couple of slides to the social economic benefits section, and this, I think, some work that we've been undertaking on behalf of the club that will feed into the planning application in due course starts to look at what the social and economic benefits of this proposal are. I'm guessing that you've all taken, or you take this as read anyway, because you will have hopefully received all of this, but there are some significant regeneration benefits economically and socially here that this scheme will bring. This will all be explained in the planning application, but growing the visitor economy, increasing the number of visitors that come through the stadium, and then the regeneration point that Maury mentions in relation to the surrounding area and the wider area of South Leeds, which obviously is a transformational programme that your council are embarking on with the adjoining lands, and also the tram system that hopefully will come to this part of Leeds.
Okay, I do need to move on to Councillor Blackburn now, so if you want to ask your question, yeah.
Thank you. I like what you're doing with the ground. I've got to say that. Having spent some of my childhood standing on the cop getting wet through, and that is before Don Revy's day as well, watching Luton Town against Leeds United in a very boring game, I've got to say it's a great improvement. The West Stand had just been built then after Old Woodland had got burnt down. So it's a great improvement to what was there. But obviously I represent the ward next to it, and part of my ward becomes a car park during season. And quite honestly, I'm glad you got promoted, but I fear the first day of the season, and I want to keep away from my telephone. But the thing is, we've got to. If you're going to expand the stadium like this, and I'm quite happy at the idea of expanding the stadium. I mean, Councillor Scopes mentions a lot in his. I mean, it's in his ward, but I say he's bang next to Dragons and Kellets and Highfields and Whitehall Road in my ward. And what we've got to do is we've got to find some way of stopping people going and using housing estates as parking areas to get to ground. And what I mean, when I was younger, I mean, there were loads of buses on Lowfields Road, and people got there by buses, and that's changed. So what we've got to do, we've got to find some way of encouraging. So I hope through discussions we can find ways forward, because I don't want to see another 6,000 or 7,000 cars coming into
Councillor
area.
Blackburn, can you ask your question?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's more of a comment.
So,
Sorry to interrupt. But
I
He's
hope
doing so well.
I hope you can sort of reassure us that's going to happen. The other thing is there's a beck down the back of the North Star, what was the COP anyway. There's a beck down there that used to be open. All right, no's mentioned in these papers, and I'm not saying anything about it. That's covered up, and that backs up, and there's two tributaries, was Wortley Beck and finally Wood Beck, where we sometimes have flooding. One concern I have is any building work there, is that going to affect that beck? Because obviously we don't want it blocking up and it causing flooding. And that's my question.
I think I've got two questions there. The first one is about the transport strategy, and I asked for this to be put up on the screen. But one of the key tenets of this proposal is to introduce travel planning at the club, which is the first time it will ever have been at the club, and that will involve a travel plan coordinator, who will be an officer within the club, and their objective will be to engage through surveys and to ensure that the modal split and the modal shift moves away from the car. We've done some work at the moment. We know that the amount of people who travel here by car, and it's 65% come by car. Now, that's not necessarily parking in the local area, but it might be parking in the park and ride. It'll be parking at other park and rides, but 65%. What we're aiming to do is actually reduce that modal split and the shift away from that car down to 55 and then to 50%. We're seeing a change in this area, or we will see a change in this area, not only White Rose rail station, which is obviously paused at the moment, but hopefully will be commenced again very shortly, and certainly by the time this will be open, I'm confident that will be open, and we'll have a tram system as well. So along with achieving some meaningful reductions in modal shift, we're also in discussions with third-party landowners, and we're also in discussions with the City Council about the other park and ride sites and how we can make those operate better, and how we can perhaps accommodate car parking demands that might arise out of this, so that it reduces that, or at least doesn't impact any further on the local community. The other area that we're looking at and working with the council on is the park and ride site that sits directly adjacent, which at the moment is largely unmanaged. You can just turn up there and try and park, I say. Sometimes you can turn up there and you can't park, and therefore that's when the chaos happens. So we're looking at actually addressing that chaos. We're also collaborating with your officers in relation to a survey in the local residential community as well. That will be coming forward to understand where the issues are and what the issues are, and how we can respond to those, both by ourselves or with the council. We've also been we've been working with WICA at the tram, ensuring that the scheme is future-proofed and will be integral to the scheme in the future. Hopefully we'll see the tram come forward, and we'll hopefully see it come past the stadium. We've also been collaborating with your officers in relation to active travel routes to the stadium. So looking at how we can improve those, wayfinding, and how we can communicate them better. Because I think at the moment, one of the big issues is that some people who arrive at Leeds, and not the regular supporters, but some who don't come as regularly, don't know actually how to get to the stadium other than by car. So it's about that communication piece. And I think finally, through the community consultation that we're going to be undertaking, certainly the exhibition and some of the consultation forums that Lucinda's dealing with, we'll hopefully be picking up some of those issues as well and how we can respond to them and build those into the travel planning. So rest assured, we do understand that car parking in the local vicinity is an issue, and it's something that we do need to address as part of this planning application. Hopefully we can report some more back to you on the 3rd, and it'll certainly be dealt with in the planning application. Second question was about drainage and flood risk. Bureau Happold, who some of you may be aware of, a local firm here, have been doing some work on drainage and flood risk assessment, and that has involved looking at all of the drainage issues that currently prevail on the site. Through drainage mitigation, we can address this. It's not in a flood zone risk area. We're in flood zone 1, but there is surface water drainage issues, particularly in the top northwestern corner of the site, and that's being addressed through mitigation. I'll take away that question about the Beck. I can't answer that at the moment, but we'll take that away and come back to you, Councillor Blackburn, as part of the planning application.
Thank you. Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Chair. Can I also take the opportunity to congratulate Leeds United, and it reflected on Monday bank holiday, how proud the citizens of Leeds were, and it's good to see Councillor Malhoney and Councillor Scope in the audience as well. On his second, on page 133, on his comments, will there be any social and economic benefits, such as like a funding pot for local organisations to apply, and they can enhance the local organisation and the area? And also, I know Ellen Road Football Club Stadium is in Beeston and Holbeck, but however, there are some neighbouring wards that will have impact, such as Hunsrun Riverside. And also, Hunsrun Riverside and Beeston and Holbeck, there are people whose English is a second language. When we're doing some consultation, it'll be nice to have a simple language communication with those residents as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Obviously, we are we're legislated by the Section 106 laws and Community Infrastructure Levy regulations. So in terms of what we can offer up as part of this planning application, in terms of financial offers, etc., that we have to take account of that. That said, the foundation, I'll pass over to Lucinda in a moment. She'll explain to you some of the work that the foundation does at the moment and how we can actually grow that, and the intention here. But there's a fantastic engagement with the foundation and the City of Leeds. 10% of participants, or 10% of the city, participate in the foundation work. But I'll pass over to Lucinda on that.
Thanks. Yes. So Leeds United Foundation are the charitable arm, if you like, of the football club, and do extensive work across the city and in the local community. I did some calculations on their outcomes from last year, and it's comes up with the figure of over £4 million in social value that the foundation just themselves delivered to the people of Leeds, which is very impressive. I think there's some really interesting discussions that are taking place through the consultation with ward members and with local members of the community about how do we ensure that the work that the foundation does can reach those communities immediately around the club, and we're quite excited about how that can develop through this process by reaching out and making those connections. Just in terms of the other surrounding wards, I've been in contact with surrounding wards such as Farnham and Wortley, and I've met with Hunslet and Riverside, or City and Riverside. I'm sorry, I've kind of gone back in time. So I've met with those ward members and continue to keep that dialogue going to ensure that their consultation is meeting their residents' needs as well as the needs of the immediate ward.
Yeah, just briefly, Chair, on the Leeds United Kick program, foundation programme. The ward I represent, Beaumont Richmond Hill, we do benefit from that programme, and we have 4 different teams, and they are contributing to our ward actually, and it's making massive benefits as well. So thank you for that.
And
if I can, just want to, since you were so kind, I want to say thanks for all your support on the parade. So that was an example of us working well together, I think. I think that was a partnership with the city and the club, and we thought that went over really well, all things considered. So thank you very much for your support of the club, and thanks, Talia.
And the work of the foundation and local schools as well is incredible, that the reach that they have to the primary school network within the city. So I told you about my my trip to Ingram Road Primary School. I'm not a natural teacher, so I was very grateful for the support of the foundation to come with me to speak to Year 6, which I find slightly terrifying, but they were incredibly helpful, and I know they go into, for example, Beeston Primary every week, and the club has also donated book vending machines very recently to Beeston Primary and I think Bishop Young Academy. So these are the kind of things that I think, as part of this consultation and gaining that dialogue with the community, we can start doing more of and talking about more as well.
Okay, Councillor Dye.
Thank you. My question's around sustainability. In the report, there are numerous references to things that you intend to do. For example, the low carbon design is mentioned, ideas around landscaping, about biodiversity. We've talked about modal shift. As a city, we are hugely ambitious in terms of net zero, and I see this as a really great opportunity to be a beacon for some of that work that we're doing. So what I'd really like, and one of the things actually that was referenced in the report, was a document which I'm sure you're much more aware of than us, about the UEFA Sustainable Infrastructure Guidelines, and what a document that is. I read it with huge interest yesterday, and I had visions of us as a city having a stadium that is really truly amazing in terms of the additions that you're going to make regarding sustainability. So can you reassure us that you are as ambitious about that as we are? Thank you.
Hopefully I can. Sustainability is at the heart of this proposal. What we have at the moment is 2 stands that clearly are not very sustainable at all. They are of their time. Operationally, they perform very poorly in terms of sustainability. So I think, as was mentioned by Matt earlier on, targeting BREEAM very good as a minimum, but also seeking the performance standards for BREEAM excellent on those standards and credits that we can achieve is clearly, that is one of our key tenets in relation to sustainable construction and operation. Both stands will be fossil fuel free. I have to say that with my teeth in. 60% of the regulated energy used in the stands will be from PVs and from air source heat pumps. We're future-proofing the scheme that in the eventuality that the district heating network comes down here, that we can connect into that as well for both stands. As you mentioned, we're maximising the efficient use of materials and structures to ensure that we minimise carbon. So there's embodied carbon obviously within the existing building, 2 stands. We're taking down those bits that we have to take down, but we're retaining those bits that we can retain, so that the embodied carbon that is in those retained bits, which is what I call the podium level, that will remain. So as a consequence, we're not adding more carbon, we're essentially using the existing. Those are some of the initiatives that we're adopting as part of the scheme. We see the outside of this scheme, the external parts of it, the landscape in the public realm, as a key part of this. And at the moment, we've got something that isn't great. We are proposing something that we think is great. Landscaping, public realm, biodiversity net gain, those are all issues that will form part of this proposal. So sustainability is at the heart of this scheme.
Thank you. Councillor Carlill, I had you next.
Thank you. In fact, my question was, one of my questions was very similar to Councillor Dye's there on the sustainability, and you've answered that, so I won't go on to that. And then also, Councillor Blackburn brought up the point about parking. I was just looking through that a little bit based on my rough calculations. I completely appreciate the ambition to move down to 50%. That's absolutely fantastic. As far as I can work out with the increased capacity, that will still lead to an increase in cars coming to the stadium than there is at the present day. So I think more of a comment for now, because you've answered the question. At the point this comes for a full plan, we will want to be looking there that you've done all you can to try and, one, reduce those car trips, but two, to look at those additional car journeys that are coming, how we can manage those in and around the local area, because I think we all want a stadium we can be proud of, and I think the only people that struggle with it at the moment are those that live within a walking distance and find that parking affects their day on match days and they plan themselves around it. And it would be great if we can work out a way to bring them in more and give them more of an excitement of match day, rather than, I'm afraid, some of them will have a fear of match day for that reason.
If I can, I know there wasn't a question on that one, but just real briefly, I think what I want to share about that is a couple of things. I think first is we do know that there's no silver bullet to parking, so it's a series of small things together that is going to make a big impact. So an example of that, just one example, is we're going to take over running all the parking lots next year, which is something that now is led by the city, or at least we're in the process of sorting that out. And we'd be able to do that digitally. We'd be able to do that much more efficiently. So there's things that we can do that are going to be just operationally run much better than they're run today. The second one, don't want to share about things until they're finalized, but it was already mentioned. I'm just this afternoon going to go meet with another big local land developer, because we're trying to get more land for more parking that's further away from the venue. And the third, and the reason that I spoke up, is that I do want to let everyone know that I think it's a shared responsibility. I think there's definitely a lot of responsibility that we hold as the club with parking, but people have to travel through a lot of roads before they get to our facility, and working in partnership with the city, making sure that where we can, there's not huge roadworks, 2 blocks away from the venue, that could be picked up so that cars could just drive more smoothly through. Maybe we need a few more people sort of waving cars by on the road. So I think there's a shared responsibility for a parking plan, but we know it starts with us as the club, and we know that's probably the most important issue that we have to address over the next couple of months.
Okay, thank you. Can I just say, Lucinda, I'm very pleased you've got a women and girls consultation event in as well in May. Sorry, I meant to say that earlier. So thank you for organising that, very important, for lots of reasons. Right, thank you for your presentation. We do have another speaker, so can I ask you to move back to the public gallery, and can I call Councillor Scopes, please? Okay, thank you, Councillor Scopes. Whenever you're ready, you can start your presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, super. Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me here today, Plans Panel. I'll just start with a couple of declarations of interest. So I am a Leeds United fan, and I am also a trustee of the Leeds United Foundation. And in addition, I'm a councillor for the area that the club and the stadium are in. And just like to say, we all want the club to succeed. We all want good things for the city. And I guess what I want to do today is set out 4 areas where I think we need to have really ironclad, solid, good proposals before we approve, or before you approve the plans in July. And some of it will fit into the planning regs nicely, and some of it will probably sort of wider things that I'd like to see happen at the same time. So I'll just go through my 4 things. So the first thing is around legacy. And I think it's really important that a club of this an expansion of this size has ongoing legacy for the local community. And that doesn't necessarily just mean Beeston Holbeck. It means the area within 5, 10, 15-minute walk of the club. And there's a couple of ways you could do that. For example, you could say the first 100 tickets that are sold in the expansion go to the Leeds United Foundation for activities in the immediate area. And that'd be something that would be relatively, in my view, straightforward to do. And given the 17,000 extra seats, I think that might be achievable. I've heard other clubs do things like 3p and every pound spent in the stadium could go towards similar sort of things. So I'd like to see a real clear plan on legacy. And I know the Section 106 thing is difficult, but the challenge for me on Section 106 is that any lump sum is eventually spent, and we're all here for a finite period of time. And so the club, all being well, will still be up in the Premier League in 50 years' time, and we still need to be paying back to the community then. So that's my first point. The second point, which has been raised by a number of people, is a solid parking plan. And I did a similar maths to Councillor Carlisle there, and 50% of 53,000 is higher than 65% of 37,500. And so that is an issue if we achieve the targets. And I guess this is a challenge not just to Leeds United, but also to Leeds City Council. My understanding of some of the views within the Highways Department in particular is it's not a major problem. And I just want to be really clear that as a ward councillor, it is a major issue. And all the colleagues I've talked to in similar neighbouring wards, whether that's Hunslet Riverside, Farnley and Wortley, or even Armley, they would all say, yes, it is an issue and it does need to be dealt with. And there's a number of issues around that where it might not be parking permits, might not be the answer. So I know houses directly on streets next door see people parking and they think, well, we'll just share a parking ticket. So there's got to be more than just... So parking permits might not be the answer, but there has to be a really solid plan. And I guess there's a couple of ideas that I've had in the past. For example, I'm a big believer in what I call the yellow brick road, which is thermoplastics, Leeds United colours from the Queen's all the way to Ellen Road, both left and right. And it gives you 2 walking routes and possibilities. And if you were to do a similar one from the the White Rose train station when it goes online, that would be good. In addition, I think the ideas that are mentioned about off-site parking and bussing in are really, really good ideas, and I'd like to see more solid proposals in the final presentation. So I think that's a really important issue, and we need to find that. And I guess also, in my head, as and when we get to 53,000, I think there'll be space to have big events there as well. And so I think we need to make sure the match day protocols are for large events as well. Okay, the third thing I'd like to talk about is jobs for local people. So we saw the slide about number of jobs that will be created, and that's a really positive thing. When, as the Council Lane, they made a commitment about how many people they'd employ within walking distance. And I think both on match day and during the construction phase, if we can get local people, local jobs, that'll make the whole thing smoother and more satisfying for the local residents who live there. So when I go to the Asda in Old Lane, I see people who live in the local area. That's a good thing for me, but it's also a good thing for everyone because they know it's not a local shop, but at least it has some local people in it. So that's good. And I know that Leeds United do employ a lot of local people, particularly on the match day work. My teenage children know a lot of their friends work in such roles, and it is a good thing. And then the final thing I'd like to talk about is the environment, both during the match and after the match. And so the first thing is around the air quality. And obviously, whilst the cars are parked during the match, that's not necessarily a problem. But because of the road infrastructure isn't designed for the number of cars, there's a lot of congestion around match times. So a lot of cars idling their engines, sitting, waiting for their opportunity to drive. And so I think that's another reason why we need to reduce reduce the number of cars that drive. The second thing is around the litter, and there is a lot of litter around the stadium post-match, and there's a small amount of antisocial behaviour so I get a few emails a year about people using people's gardens as facilities rather than using pub facilities or stadium facilities. So I just think there's something around what we can see to be done about the litter, whether that's more bins, commitment to ongoing litter pickers after the match, so that sort of thing. And I guess with all those things, I think there is a element of the club and the city need to work together. But ultimately, this is a decision point. So not today, but when the panel meets again with the formal application, that will be a decision point. And so for me, we need to be able to see a solid plan on each of those 4 items for me to be satisfied that it'll be good for the local community. I think it's undoubtedly going to be good for the city as a whole. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think legacy is important. If I just go back to the first one, I do think there will be a cost of being a local resident to this. And as I also live in the area, and so I can understand that. And that's why I think there needs to be a little bit of give back. So the cost of having a fantastic stadium in our area is traffic on match days or major event days. The benefit is each match day or major event, we get this much for the local community. So that's my presentation. I hope that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scopes. Do members of the panel have questions to Councillor Scopes? No? No questions. Right. Well, you obviously answered everybody's thoughts and questions, Councillor Scopes. Very detailed presentation there from you. Okay. If you would like to take your place back in the public gallery, we will move to comments now from members. So does anyone have a comment? Councillor Jones.
My comment actually is that, how can I put this, is with the growth of women's football, and we are seeing major attendances, I don't see any mention in the proposal that how we could actually get that into Ellen Road, basically. I know at presently they play at Garforth, it's not particularly well advertised, and I'd like to see the club doing a little bit more to promote women's football. And I think there's work to do on that, to be honest. That's just I know that's outside this remit, but I just think it needed saying.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blackburn next.
Going back to the boring subject of parking, I'll just say some years ago when they built the PlayStation on what was the old ground stadium, which used to be used for a car park, and we reduced parking in the area then, there were several schemes, some in Councillor Scott's ward and some proposed in my ward. And I've got to say, it weren't proposed by ward members. I think it came from Highways through planning process. And we was my residents were offered residents only match day parking. But we consulted on it, but on a couple of times actually consulted on it. I won't say there were necessarily overwhelming support, but we don't want to put ourselves in the position we put ourselves in there, because by the time we came to actually try and introduce it, we couldn't afford to do it with money we've got. So whatever we do to try and help our residents from having loads of vehicles parked outside their houses, I think what we've got to do is do it in a way that we actually deliver.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments on the application? Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Chair. I think what's been really important is that we've not shied away from what are some significant issues. I think the parking undoubtedly is going to be a major concern for local residents. There's no silver bullet. I think match days are always going to be very busy around Elland Road. What I think is going to be essential when the planning application comes out is that as we were told, for the first time, there is going to be somebody at the club responsible for actual travel management. And I think how that develops over time is going to be essential, because to see that properly integrated within the club infrastructure is, I think, going to be a key part of how this can be taken forward, and is going to improve fans' travel time as well. No one wants to sit in a car for half an hour in and another half an hour out. So really integrated transport solutions are going to be key to that. That said, we are Leeds, and we've always had to, as a city, make do with second best. It's something I said when we were developing the arena. You know, we had to schlep at that time to Sheffield, or heaven forfend, Manchester, you know, to access first-class facilities. It's absolutely right that the greatest football team in the world should have the greatest facilities. And, you know, when we're going to be playing in Europe in a few years' time, it's right that visitors to our city get to experience Leeds hospitality at its finest. And so I think this is a really positive development for the city. But Councillor Scopes is right. We've got to make sure that we're not punishing local residents. But I am assured that the club will make sure that that's not the case. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. As someone who grew up near the football ground, late 70s and 80s, the parking was a problem then. I can remember the streets lined with cars back then. So I am really hoping that this gives us an opportunity to once and for all tackle that issue and resolve those parking problems which have been there for a very long time. So I do hope that we can, you know, take that opportunity and solve those issues. Do I have any more comments before moving on to the questions? Okay, right, thank you, members. We're now invited to comment on the emerging proposals, which we've done, and to address issues and answer the questions on page 158 of your agenda. So I will go through each question and ask if you are in agreement. So question 1, do members support the emerging designs for the West Stand and the indicative extensive development for the proposed North Stand? Are people in agreement? Members in agreement? Thank you. Number 2, do members support the emerging work on management and control of transportation issues, bearing in mind the conversations that we've had and
I think you've got to see what comes in future. I think we can't commit this one on. There's some very positive there's some very positive things being said, but it's delivery, isn't it? And that we'll only get that when we get planning.
It's the emerging.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does say emerging, and that will, you know, that will lead on to those solid plans that will come with the full application. Yeah. So is everyone in agreement with the emerging plans that we have? Yeah. Okay, and do members support the emerging proposals on climate change and sustainability? And thank you for reading that report, Councillor Dye.
Well, if you haven't read it, it's an absolute delight. I highly recommend it.
So, our members... Right, are members in support of those emerging proposals, number 3?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor Cohen, you want to come?
Just to add, I think it's really important to note, I should have said it in my comments, so I apologise, but the level and the extent of consultation and engagement is, for me, a model that I wish all developers would. It really is the gold standard. And I just think it's worth us knowing that we recognise that there is a huge amount of work going into doing this with the community, not to the community. And I think that's really noteworthy. Thanks, Chair.
Absolutely. There's various consultation events taking place, engaging all elements of the local community and society. So, yeah, the extent of that is fabulous and a model we really should promote. So, is everyone in agreement with question 3? Okay, right, thank you, everybody. That brings us to the end of agenda item number 8. And if I can just thank Leeds United again for coming and presenting to us, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you. Okay, a very, very quick comfort break, members, and then straight back, please. Okay, thank you everybody for coming back promptly. We're now moving to agenda item number 9, which is the pre-application, which is phase 2 of the proposals for the land at Sweet Street West, which is on Marshall Street in Holbeck. So first of all, I will hand over to Robin. First of all, thank you.
Well, really, just to say that I'll be here for some questions, but I'm going to hand over to the applicants to do the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. No updates like the last one, so that's fine. We can move straight on. Okay. Right. Thank you for attending today's panel meeting. We will hand over to yourselves now for your presentation. Thank you.
Super. Thank you. My name is Tom Smith. I am from DLG Architects in Leeds. On my left is, do you want to pick? I can speak. Pete Gleave from Zerum and Madara from LDA Landscape Design on my right. So, like this thing. So this scheme has been a panel a few times now for a couple of plea-apps. It was consented in November 23. So it was a part detail, part outline submission. So today we're coming back. We'd like to talk about the plots in the centre of the site here that we've outlined in red. The detailed consent is now well under construction. The first building, first residential building, Resi 1, due to complete January 2027. This will provide 451 homes alongside some key areas of public realm, including the public square in the northeast of the site, 2 large planted courtyards and significant improvements to Sweet Street West. The plots for Resi 2 and 4 are highlighted in red here on the plan, and we're presenting today developments for this phase of the site. The outline building footprints shown here are similar to those for Resi 1. We believe there is an opportunity to improve the composition and setting of these buildings, working hand in hand with public realm enhancements. One of the main drivers when looking to develop the design of the central plots is reappraising the route of the access road. Currently, the road bisects the site in 2, and this limits the quality of the public realm to the west portion of the site. The road is the dominant feature here, and the public open space subservient to the road and its associated parking. We are therefore proposing to reroute the access road towards the perimeter, reduce its prominence, and open up a much greater expanse of pedestrianised public realm. Reorientation and reproportion of the building allows us to improve the sequence of spaces running through the site and provide a more distinct address for each block. The forms of the blocks in plan allow for a much greater number of dual aspect apartments to be delivered in this phase. So you can see here a before and after comparison of the landscape characters. So before and after shows how the east-west central green space is now a more substantial, less disjointed piece of public realm. The names are just placeholders at the moment, but these will be worked up in more detail by LDA, who are going to develop a distinct character for each of these spaces. So in terms of numbers, this gives a central green space improvement of 25% in area, an increase in new trees of 31 across the site, and an overall public space improvement of 4%. So we not only have an improvement in the amount of public realm delivered, we feel there are significant improvements to the quality of these spaces and also the setting of the buildings. So moving on to massing changes, we are proposing to drop height towards the centre of the site on Resi 2 in the centre to allow far more light into the public realm. We're proposing a significant reduction in height versus the outline, reducing from 14 to 8 stories on the northeast corner of Resi 2. The linking buildings on Resi 2 drops from 7 at outline to 2 in the current proposals. And then to maintain the quantum of development, Resi 4 is now a point block at 24 stories, which you can just see at the rear there against the railway line. We think this scale suits its location on the site, reinforcing a progression in height up to the northwest corner and bookending the central green space to provide a more positive and distinct skyline. So before and after comparison, of the proposed massing shows how we moved away from the regimented arrangement of parallel blocks to a massing that better reflects its position on the site, dropping in scale to the north and pushing the point blocks to the south. The point block of Resi 4 forms a stronger relationship with the railway line to the southwest. So this is a raised perspective looking west from the east, and here you can see the extension of the public realm, the dropping of the massing of BTR2, and the distinct form of BTR4 in the background as a bookend. Here's an eye-level view. I mean, I think this view speaks for itself, really. It's a complete transformation of the space at this level outside Resi 4, from a car-dominated section to a complete pedestrianised and green extension of the public realm. Again, this is a raised view from the same position. Again, I think the benefits are obvious. The quality of public realm is transformed, providing a much improved setting for the entrances of the buildings. In terms of design principles, we're looking to maintain those that were established as part of the original consent. So taking cues from local architecture, such as the active chamfer corners, examples would be Globe Point and Draper's Yard. Make sure the buildings have a clear hierarchy of bottom, middle and crown, such as those of the former Albert Library. One thing to say, we're also working closely with wind engineers on this scheme because it's quite a difficult site in terms of wind engineering because it's got no shelter from the prevailing wind to the southwest. But we are looking to provide compliance in the building forms themselves rather than rely on extensive wind mitigation at ground. So we're looking at wind mitigation as inherent to the architecture, using devices such as canopies and colonnades, rather than wind mitigation as objects appended to the buildings and landscape. In terms of facade treatment, I think the headline here is that we'd like to move away from a red brick for these plots. Resi 1 utilises 2 tones of red brick, and we feel a counterpoint is required to give variety across the site because it's a very large site. Shared architectural language across buildings is still important though. So devices such as pairing of windows, introducing feature banding on alternate floors to give the buildings a larger language and rhythm, matching the design approach of Resi 1. The buildings will still be majority brick, but in a much lighter tone. And then colonnades in stone form a base of the Resi 1 building that's under construction, and we'd like to continue this language for Resi 2 and 4. So you can see here sorry, I've lost my way here. Sorry, green. So yeah, green is an accent colour that we've used on Resi 1 for the windows, and we've also it's quite hard to tell on this visual, but it's the right of the image you can see there. We have some glazed geometric tiling that pair windows together. That's under construction at the moment, and we'd like to take that green language as a recurring motif throughout the project. And the original reference for this came from thinking about the construction of the former Holbit Library and the glazed terracotta we found, which was produced by Bermontos Pottery. And the green is a nod to a popular colour that are used within their architectural faience. And I think a good example would be the County Arcade that has a lovely green and orange faience throughout at high level. So, and the image here just shows how we're using the colonnades as a device to mark entrances. And it just shows a general enhancement to the public realm here, an extension of the public realm. And the dropping of the massing here to 2 stories across the link block brings a lot more daylight and sunlight to the scheme. And then the last image, again, this is again across the central green space, and this is looking east this time. So you can see on the right, the architecture. The idea is to share a lot of the same architectural features as Resi 1, but in a different material aesthetic. But it does do the same things in terms of the architectural language, such as pairing windows, banding on alternate courses, stacked corner balconies for dual aspect apartments. And again, the idea is of the colonnade running through, so they'll run through grounds across the development. And I think I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, right. Yeah, I was very engrossed in that. I was waiting for more photos, more pictures. Right. Any questions from panel members to the applicants? No? Oh, right. Councillor Dye.
Thank you. I was just looking on the site plan and
Should I go back to it?
yeah, if you go back to the, I think it's probably one of the first. Yeah, that one. So am I right in the lines that are shown on the top of B, access points where people can walk through from suites? Correct.
Yeah. So the Resi 1 block looks like it's an enormous block there, but there are actually access routes through. There's two kind of two-story walkthroughs there that take you into those two courtyards that you can see, and then through further into the centre of the site. Yeah. So there is more permeability there than it appears. Yeah.
And can you then not walk all the way through Resi 2? What happens when you get there?
No, you've met with an entrance there, and then there's a rear courtyard for Resi 2, but that would be a private courtyard just for that block
So
itself.
the only people who can get into that courtyard for parking are the residents of Resi 2?
That, as it's currently designed, yes.
Right, okay. And I was just wondering about whether there's any scope for moving that parking. I think the additional green space is really nice, but that somehow just seems to be an incongruous block of parking somehow.
It's been a difficult balancing act because we're trying to balance public realm with the requirement for parking, and because of the requirement for EV charging now and insurers' views on undercroft parking, we've had to move away from the idea of undercroft parking because it's just not a practical thing. I don't think there's any official legislation around it, but insurers are not keen to insure residential buildings where you have undercroft parking and EV charging. So we've had to take the EV charging outside the line of the buildings, and by a distance as well. I think you're talking like 6 meters thereafter. So, I mean, that's a constraint we've had to work with.
Can I ask an additional one then, Chair? So will all those parking spaces have EV charging?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the policy is 10% in terms of delivery day one, but 100% of them have to be EV ready. So they'll have to have the charging pillars day one, but the ducting infrastructure has to be in the roads to facilitate it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dye. Any further questions? No. Okay. Any comments from members? No? Okay, right. Thank you. We will move on to the set of questions then. 172 of your agenda, please. So I'll go through the three questions and ask your whether you're in agreement or not. So, do members have any comments? Number one, do members have any comments on the proposed realignment of the internal road? Yes, Councillor Dye.
I would say it's definitely an improvement in the fact that it does what you said at the beginning, that it doesn't cut the site in half and it allows for more green space. So I'm definitely in favour of that.
Okay, thank you. I think I've nods around the table. Everyone seems to be in agreement. So number two, do members have any comments on the changes to residential blocks Resi 2 and Resi 4? No? Everyone's okay with that? Thank you. And number three, do members have any comments on the overall changes to the development? No. Everyone's in agreement, happy with that. Okay. Okay, right. Thank you. And thank you for coming with your presentation. I was absolutely engrossed in your slides. I love that last one, how it's going to look when it's finished. That was amazing. Yeah. Oh, it's gone. I was going to have another look at it. That one, that looks fabulous. Yeah. Really impressed. Thank you for coming in with your presentation. Okay.
Thank you.
And that concludes today's business, members. And thank you. I'm glad somebody's listening to me. Thank you. That concludes today's business and is the end of the meeting. Thank you all for your attendance and your contributions. Councillor Khan, you just want to come in before I end things?
Yes, I just want to thank Dan for being the panel member. Myself and Dan has been on the panel member for probably the same time.
Has he died?
No, he's moving on. Dan is going to be the next Lord Mayor of our wonderful city of Leeds, and he will do a great job. And I just want to congratulate you, Dan, and well done, and make proud of us. Thank you.
Okay, as a former Lord Mayor, thank you, Councillor Khan, for your comments. It could be back in a year after we don't know. But yeah, you won't be here for the next 12 months, Councillor Cohen. So have a good year as Lord Mayor, and we will be seeing lots of you, certainly in the council chamber. So have fun as Lord Mayor for the next 12 months. And the next meeting is on the 5th of June. Yes, sorry, I forgot the date then. It's been such an exciting afternoon. So I will see you all, hopefully, minus Councillor Cohen, on the 5th of June. Okay. He'll be otherwise engaged at that point, yes. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you.